Today we are here with Kimberly and we have traveled to Central Washington to check out her family farm. She had posted something the other day on Facebook and I was so interested in wanting to learn more about what she was talking about and sharing this information with you. So if you don't know me, my name is 𝐂𝐎𝐋𝐿 and I help families all over the world save money on groceries. And one of those things is to be able to learn where our food comes from and how to be better stewards of that food that you bring in. So the other day, we'll post exactly what you posted on Facebook, but it was so interesting to me, and I don't know all the details off the top of my head, but you were talking about the price of wheat right now and what that gets you, like at the grocery store. So can you kind of talk about those details that you put in the Facebook page?
I was grocery shopping the other day and I picked up a loaf of bread, and it's not Wonder Bread or those kinds of breads, it's good bread. And it cost $7 for a loaf. And I was thinking that, you know, my husband is a wheat farmer. He gets $1.80 or $4.80 a bushel for wheat. And that's, I mean, a bushel makes, what did I say in my post? There's 60 pounds in a bushel, and I think it takes 2 pounds to make a loaf of bread. 30 loaves of bread times $7 is what everyone else is paying for this wheat that we don't get paid that. We, you know, do all the work to make it grow and fertilize it and pay to have all the stuff done, but we don't get any of the kickback for their $7 loaves of bread, which is not really fair for the farmer. Right now, the price of wheat is, I don't know, it's $4.81, I think, in Elmira, which is where I'm from. That's the same as it was in the 70s. And the 80s, and that was a long time ago. But the price of gas has gone up, the price of fertilizer has gone up, the price of, you know, minimum wage has gone up, and you can't work overtime, which harvest is definitely overtime. So it just seems not fair to me.
What's your husband's like schedule like? Does he work like 9 to 5, like a 40-hour week?
No, he gets up at 6, has to have his coffee or he can't function. They get up and they go out and they tune up all the equipment, get the combines greased and everything done. They are probably cutting about 8. And right now he's got 3 people on his crew. 1 combine, 2 trucks. And then they work all day till my husband likes to cut out a little early. So they work till 6 or 7. And then they come in and have dinner and go to bed. They
fall asleep in the chair.
Sometimes, yes. But he also will go to bed at like 7:30 at night. Lots of other farmers will work till dark. We don't do that.
You don't do that.
No. Our farm isn't that big.
It's fun that, like, I grew up on a different kind of farm, and then our family has different experiences with, like, fruit farming and different things, and then to be able to experience what it's like to see a working wheat farm. So
we farm soft white winter wheat here. Normally it starts when the snow is gone. The first rotations of the equipment go. There's weeding and plowing and seeding and all the things. Seeding usually happens in the fall, but if you've had a bad crop, then you can reseed in the spring. So that helps. Those bushels will never be as high as a winter wheat crop. Right now we're harvesting. It's been going for a week already, and we've just finished our first field. But lots of breakdowns and all those things that every farmer gets. Our harvest lasts about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, because we're a smaller farm than most of them around us. As soon as harvest is over, there will be a round of weeding and then a seeding, which will take a couple weeks as well. And then pretty much after that, like October, we're done for the winter. Most farmers have the winters off, usually. They can work in their shops on their equipment in the wintertime if they want. My husband says it costs him $1,000 every time he opens the shop door, so he doesn't do anything in the winter. Farmers, you know, work really hard for 6 months and then they chill after that. Most of them. Not all of them. Some of them work really hard all year long.
If you don't have animals.
Yeah, if you don't have animals, and we don't have animals. We do things like go side-by-siding and camping and snowmobile racing and do all that fun stuff in the wintertime. Summertime, we don't do fun stuff at all.
So as your wheat gets harvested, where does it go next?
From the field, it goes to the elevator. From the elevator, Waterville trucks it to the bigger elevators in Wenatchee, and then they ship it out truck it all over and then ship it wherever it needs to go. Waterville doesn't have a train rail anymore. They took it out in the 80s, I think. I can't remember. Somewhere around there. But anyway, in Elmira, where I'm from, the train goes right to the elevator, takes all the wheat, carries it wherever it needs to go to be exported.
Kimberly was saying that it might have been off camera, so we'll just repeat it just in case. But this town doesn't have a train station that the grain goes to, and so they have to truck it to the place that it does, and that's all part of her cost or their family's cost of this farming.
We get charged a lot to do a lot of things.
It's just interesting to, like, we just buy flour and we don't think about
all the things that go into how to get the flour to the store. Right. There's a lot of things that go on in between. There's government programs, there's different things that they make us do, jump through all the hoops, and they'll, you know, pay you this amount of money. Some of it is called CRP, where they make you take your crop out. And usually you only do this when it's not growing any good wheat anyway. Bad soil or stuff. So they make you take the crop out, but then they make you plant all new native sagebrush and grasses and everything in it, and they pay you to do that, to save the grouse and the pygmy rabbits and all those things. That's great, but I mean, it's still not paying the bills.
Or feeding families.
Or feeding families. But it is saving some grouse and pygmy rabbits. Our harvest crew this year is a guy that we've had for about 4 years. He comes and drives truck every year. He's retired, and he only wants to work for harvest. Our combine driver has worked for us for probably 6 or 7 years. He has a full-time job with benefits and the whole thing, but he took his 2-week vacation to come and drive combine because he loves it. And then my daughter, she's family, so she has to. Not because she wants to, but she has to, and she's doing a great job, and you know, it's just what you do.
So in Washington, like, some of the labor laws have changed this year in particular. So for the fruit harvest, I know it's a big issue this year that the harvesters can't work more than 40 hours a week, or it's overtime. And people don't realize that farms can't afford to pay overtime. So then they're bringing in more people to cover those costs. So, like, everybody's making less money, and we're still paying more at the grocery store. And so here in Washington, particularly, those overtime laws are, like, really hurting families that are, like, bringing in large crews for harvesting. But you guys are a smaller harvesting crew, but still having a hard time finding people to drive trucks and stuff.
We have a problem finding people who want to work because of the labor laws, and also because the farms around here are getting bigger. Like, older farms are buying out newer or other older farms, and they're just adding to their own farm to make it bigger. So there's not a lot of kids raised in the farming community anymore. Like, in school, I could name probably 5 farm kids of all of our whole town. And so nobody knows. I mean, a normal kid who lives in town, or his parents are insurance agents or lawyers or whatever, they don't know how to farm. They don't even know how to drive a truck. So it's hard to get someone to work when they aren't raised here doing this from the time they were little. You're kind of born into it. You don't just go buy a wheat farm. You are born into it, or married into it, or, you know, something like that to get a farm.
So me personally, I grew up on a dairy farm, so a large dairy farm in Western Washington, and it was a 5th generational farm. And interesting kind of enough that my dad decided to be a logger instead of being a farmer, so our farm is like no more. And that's what happens with a lot of farms.
My husband would have been at least the 3rd generational farmer. There might have been a great-grandpa that farmed, but I'm not sure of that. But anyway, my father-in-law's dad farmed. He passed away, so my father-in-law took over the farm. Then my husband took over the farm after Grandpa retired, and now my son, who's 22, will be probably taking over the farm. So at least 4 generations of farmers for here. My husband has a farm. I grew up on a farm. We were a good combo.
I just laughed. Before Mike and I started dating, my parents loved when I wasn't dating anybody in the summertime and we had to bring the hay in, because then there would be a couple boys that would be fighting for attention and wanting to show off, and they would get the hay in.
Yeah, true story.
So sometimes having that daughter on the farm isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, that's right. My dad had 3 daughters, and so we didn't really have a hard time finding people to work.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to marry a farmer's daughter because they know how to cook.
Yep.
My job as the farm wife is to cook for them. My crew particularly comes in for lunch, especially when it's 100 degrees outside. They get their little half hour of air conditioning and then they drive back out. Make sure that all their clothes are clean and they're ready to get on the track or the combine and all that. I run errands for them. It's not unheard of to get the phone call that says, could you drive 2 hours to this place and get me this part? And the part's like this big. I'm like, okay. But that's what I do for them. That's my share of participating. And quite honestly, I don't know many farms that could survive without someone doing that for them, because they can't. They come in exhausted. I have allergies, so I don't get to hang out in the field very much. But I personally am a sign maker, but I am self-employed and I work in my shop just outside. So I can make my own hours. I can stop what I'm doing to help with the farm.
Every farm is going to be different. That most farmers' wives have other jobs and degrees and all of the things to help supplement the farm.
I know lots of farmers who have wives that work in town, like they work at the county, they work, you know, whatever, but a lot of wives do that because they need benefits, health benefits. Farming is one of the most dangerous jobs if you look it up. People can get hurt so easily just by stepping wrong off the ladder or whatever. But health insurance for farmers is really high because of it being very dangerous. So lots of farmers don't have insurance. And a lot of farmers' wives work at government offices or a job that will pay you benefits for your kids. I mean, it's expensive, really expensive. And like for us, we had major medical. So we paid all of our bills anyway and still paid $2,000 a month for health insurance. But that's why, I mean, some farmers' wives are in the kitchen and doing all the errands and stuff, but other farmers' wives are paying the health insurance.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal for a lot of farmers. We spend a lot of time in the summer being in a haze of smoke. Mostly it's from the forest fires in Chelan or the Cascades, but every once in a while equipment will break down or something bad goes wrong in the field and it'll start a fire. Well, the fire trucks are, gosh, 10 minutes away, and it's all volunteer fire department, so it takes them a while to get here. If the farmer can't get it out by themselves, then the whole crew comes. That particular fire went state mob because it went quickly. The wind was blowing, it was terrible. Went down into some neighbors' pasture and burned all their fence up and got very close to their home. I mean, it's just random. You don't know when that's gonna happen. That's usually an equipment problem or lightning. Lightning, definitely lightning. That happens quite a lot. Our neighbors had 2 combines and they were just parked on the edge of the field. And they went home and went to bed and their 2 combines caught on fire in the night. Just nobody knows how or why or whatever, but they lost 2 combines in the night. So that was bad. But fire's very scary around here.
My brother was actually one of the firefighters that was here a couple years ago that you guys were worried about your farm catching on fire. And so like the forest fires, well, they're not forest fires here because it's all fields. Yeah, wheat fields.
There's no trees.
Yeah, but the fires that happen in Washington are like a big issue too that can affect everything.
Last year, because of Mother Nature and all of her nastiness, harvest was terrible for our county. Lots of other places had great harvest, just ours was bad. We had a lot of snow for too long. And then this year, it's just total opposite. It's wonderful. This past summer, starting in June, it's very cool, oddly cooler than usual. There would be little scattered rain showers, but it never really got above 75 degrees, which is very rare. Usually this time of year, it's 95, 90, 100. It's very hot. But this year, for some reason, it did not get that hot and the wheat loved it. So this year, for the first time in a very long time, Waterville farmers are having a great crop. So my farmers here are really happy right now. Last year, it was horrible. Horrible, so much so that the insurance guy said, you don't even need to cut this because it's that bad. So, you know, you can only do that so many times and have a terrible harvest before you're just done. You can't make any money if you don't have a crop.
And one bad harvest can affect for a long time for you, like years.
If you have a bad harvest with not a good crop or anything, you can't pay your bills, you can't, you know, pay your help, you can't do anything without, you know, a crop. So having 2 bad crops in a row or 3 will put a farmer right under.
You talk about harvest season, and harvest season, like your last good harvest season is dependent on the weather and fires and all of those kind of things that...
And equipment.
And equipment, yeah, and having to pay all the people and, you know, making sure everybody's healthy and all those kind of things. So when you have that short little harvest season and people look at it like, oh, you only have to work, you know, so much of the year, your whole lives are dependent on those weeks or months that you're working, and you don't know exactly when the next harvest season is going to be a good one and good for your family. Something I know growing up, like being in the farm community, is like when something happens and you need your neighbors and you need your friends, and it's something that you don't even experience anywhere else in the world like it happens in the farm community, because everybody knows how hard it is to bring in the harvest and how missing those critical moments is so important for the family.
One summer, the farmer got sick and died and couldn't finish his crop, and his family was relying on that. As soon as that happened, well, it's a small town. We know everything about everybody. All the farmers stopped what they were doing in their own fields and took their combines to that man's field and all their trucks and all their people and cut the whole field for him in like an hour. We call that a harvest bee. That's what they called it years and years ago when all the farmers got together to help someone out. It's a harvest bee.
That's really neat.
That gives me the... And the farmers around here would do it for anybody. I mean, that's just how farmers are. Farmers care about other farmers, and it's a way of life. We're small town people. We know everyone. We are friends with everyone. And if somebody needs help, or say you break your leg and you can't drive truck, somebody's gonna do it for you. It's just how gracious everyone is, I think, as farmers. What I really want people to know is that the farmer works really hard to feed the world, to feed you and me and overseas everything, and they don't get much back. A combine costs over $1 million, and trucks, you can't even buy a pickup now for under 100,000 practically.
Well, you were saying too, it was like all of your other costs just have skyrocketed.
And the price of wheat's $4.80. The price of wheat was the same now as it is back in the 70s. So that's just doesn't seem right to me.
Just, you know, we see prices skyrocketing at the stores, and I hear all the time that people, well, the farmers must be getting rich. The farmers aren't getting rich. And that's kind of why we drove over here to do this video, is to help, you know, tell a farmer's story of what this is like. You know, things need to change for the farmers and for families, that we can get more affordable food that will be healthy for us and good for us and just help everybody. So I'm so thankful for our time today, being able to film this. If you would like to ask more questions about this whole process of bringing in the wheat, or any other kind of like farming videos you would like to see in the future, please leave comments and questions and we will answer them all. We are very, see, that's what she eats. We'll do that a third time. Okay.
Do you want to stand? We could stand on the island.
It's a farmhouse, there's dogs.
Sorry, my dogs want to be on TV.
It's okay.